Burn them all. Let the waters remember my wrath. Was I ever more than a choice to you, Oba? Or was I just the price you paid for your throne?
Forgive me, Zarena. I had to do this, for my people.
The grand halls of Thor's imperial palace were carved from the bones of ancient leviathans, their walls pulsing with the magic of the deep. The water shimmered with golden light, casting shadows that stretched like silent sentinels. At the center of it all, seated on his massive throne of coral and obsidian, was Emperor Zephyron. His presence was overwhelming, a monarch carved from discipline and power. His sea-green eyes were sharp, his scaled armor gleaming under the glow of enchanted crystals. Seraphina, his only daughter, stood beside him, poised, golden-tailed, unreadable. And before them, Oba stood with the weight of his fallen kingdom on his shoulders. "You seek an army." Zephyron's voice was calm, but it carried the force of a tidal wave. "Thor does not fight for sentiment. We fight for advantage." Oba's fists clenched. He had expected this. He had come prepared. "I offer more than sentiment," Oba said evenly. "I offer vengeance. Marjani's forces grow bolder by the day. She will not stop at my kingdom. Soon she will look to yours. Aligning with me means securing Thor's dominance before war reaches your gates." Zephyron's gaze didn't waver. A compelling argument. But not enough. Oba felt it coming before Zephyron spoke the next words. "To command Thor's army, you must be bound to Thor itself." Beside the emperor, Seraphina tilted her head ever so slightly, her golden hair floating around her like sunlit strands. "A union," she said smoothly. "Between you and me." Oba's breath stilled. He had suspected this would be the price. But hearing it aloud made it real. Seraphina was beautiful, powerful, and strategic. A perfect political match. But she was not Zarena. Still, love would not win this war. Oba forced his expression into cold resolve. "If marriage is what it takes to secure my people's future, then I will do what is necessary." Seraphina's lips curved slightly, not in warmth but in triumph. Zephyron nodded, satisfied. "Then at sunrise, the alliance will be sealed." A whisper of movement caught Oba's attention. Zarena. She stood at the edge of the hall, half hidden behind a pillar of glowing coral. Her dark eyes locked onto his, emotions swirling beneath the surface. She had heard everything. The silence between them stretched impossibly thin. Oba took a step forward. "Zarena." She shook her head. "No," she whispered. "I understand now." Seraphina's gaze flickered to her, then back to Oba. Amusement gleamed in her eyes. "It appears you have unfinished affairs." Oba ignored her. "Zarena, it's not what you think." Her laugh was quiet, bitter. "Isn't it?" Oba reached for her, but this time she didn't let him touch her. "You chose Oba," Zarena whispered, her voice steadier than he expected. "Now I will too." She turned sharply, swimming toward the exit. Oba's heart lurched. "Zarena, wait." But she was already gone. And as the doors sealed shut behind her, he knew he had lost more than just a woman. He had lost the one thing that made him happy. The sea trembled under the force of Queen Marjani's army as she attacked the kingdom of Udi. Beside her, King Kanyisa stood tall, his golden armor glinting under the eerie glow of his mother's dark magic. His obsidian trident pulsed with deadly energy. The warriors of Udi fought valiantly, but they were outmatched. Marjani raised her staff, black lightning crackling from its tip. With a single word, she sent a tidal wave crashing against Udi's outer gates. Boom! The enchanted walls shuddered. Kanyisa grinned wickedly, watching the Udi warriors struggle. "They're weakening." Marjani's eyes burned with fury. "Then we break them." From the shadows, Kala and Malik fought fiercely, cutting through the cursed warriors. Udi's forces refused to fall without a fight. "We need reinforcements," Kala panted, looking at Malik. Malik nodded, pulling a flare from his belt. With a swift motion, he fired the first signal. A burst of red flames shot through the water, a desperate cry for Thor's aid. But no one came. Malik's stomach twisted. Again, the second signal lit up the sky. Still, the waters of Thor remained silent. The gates of Udi shattered. Marjani's army stormed in, Kanyisa leading the charge. Victory was near. Kanyisa smirked as he slashed through an Udi warrior. "Thor has abandoned them. This kingdom is ours." But then, a roar shook the battlefield. A shadow fell over Udi as the warriors of Thor finally arrived. At the front, Princess Seraphina led the charge, her golden-scaled tail flashing like lightning. She was riding her dragon. Behind her, Thor's sea dragons descended, their massive wings stirring the ocean currents. With a single command, Seraphina's warriors unleashed hell. Golden fire rained down, consuming Marjani's forces. Kanyisa's smirk vanished as his soldiers screamed, engulfed in flames. Marjani's eyes widened in rage. "No!" Seraphina's trident glowed as she rushed forward, clashing directly with Kanyisa. Their weapons met in a fierce explosion of power. Kanyisa snarled, pushing against her strength. "You're too late." Seraphina's eyes burned. Not late, just in time. With a mighty strike, she sent Kanyisa flying backward. Thor's forces overwhelmed the battlefield, leaving Marjani and Kanyisa with no choice. Marjani's voice was sharp with fury. "Fall back!" Kanyisa gritted his teeth, but he obeyed. They had lost. Marjani vanished into the shadows, her mind already plotting revenge. Marjani stormed into the throne room of Vealora, her rage barely contained. King Azrael sat upon his dark throne, watching her with a knowing smirk. "We underestimated Thor," Marjani spat. Azrael raised an eyebrow. "Indeed." Kanyisa crossed his arms. "We underestimated their dragons." His voice was bitter. Azrael's smirk faded. "Then brute force will not be enough." King Azrael stepped forward, his violet eyes gleaming. "We don't need to break Thor with war," he said, his voice smooth like silk. "We need to break them from within." Marjani's eyes narrowed. "How?" King Azrael touched a black crystal, his magic pulsing through the air. "Their greatest weakness," he murmured, "is already inside their walls." His smile deepened. "We just have to make them bleed." Back in Thor, the victory at Udi had secured their kingdom's power. But inside the palace, Oba's battle was far from over. Zarena hadn't left. Not because she wanted to stay, but because she had nowhere else to go. If she returned to Vealora, they would kill her. Now, she was trapped in a kingdom where the man she loved had chosen duty over her. In the quiet of her chambers, Princess Imani sat beside her, gently braiding her hair. "I know what you're feeling," Imani said softly. Zarena scoffed. "You don't." Imani sighed. "You think I don't know what it's like to lose everything." Zarena didn't answer. Imani tightened her grip. "Listen to me, Zarena. You're not powerless. You never have been." Zarena blinked. "Then why does it feel like I am?" Before Imani could answer, the door swung open. Oba stood there. The moment his eyes met Zarena's, his resolve wavered. But she didn't let herself soften. "What do you want, Your Highness?" she said coldly. Oba flinched. Imani placed a hand on his shoulder as she passed. "Fix this," she murmured, "before it's too late." Then they were alone. Silence stretched between them, thick with everything left unsaid. Oba took a step forward. "Zarena, She held up a hand. "Don't." His chest ached. "You don't understand." "No," she cut in, her eyes blazing. "You don't understand. I fought for you. I bled for you. And when it was your turn to fight for me, you chose a throne." Oba's fists clenched. I chose my people. Zarena's laugh was bitter. No, Oba. You chose power. Silence. He had no argument. 'Cause she wasn't wrong. He turned away. Go back to your bride-to-be, Prince Oba. Oba stepped closer, voice tight. Is that what you think this is? Zarena refused to look at him. I think it doesn't matter what I think. He exhaled sharply. It does to me. But Zarena was already walking away. And this time, Oba was the one left behind. The throne room of Vealora was shrouded in eerie blue light, the glow of enchanted corals casting ghostly shadows on the walls. At the center, Queen Marjani stood beside King Azrael, her emerald green eyes gleaming with a dangerous scheme. King Azrael, draped in a dark flowing robe adorned with ancient sigils, leaned forward on his obsidian throne. His violet eyes burned with quiet calculation. Thor has proven resilient. Their dragons have shifted the tides of war. We need a way inside their walls. Marjani smirked, trailing a finger along the armrest of her sea stone chair. And we have it. Azrael raised a brow. Zarena, Marjani said smoothly, her voice dripping with venom. She is inside their palace. And she is the key. Azrael's fingers drummed against the throne. She is of no use to us. She is loyal to Oba. Marjani chuckled, shaking her head. She is the daughter of Malachi. Azrael's gaze sharpened at the mention of the name. Marjani continued, her voice silk and steel. A daughter's heart is soft. She will not abandon her father to rot in our dungeons. And when the time is right, she will lead us straight into the heart of Thor. Azrael considered her words, then nodded slowly. We will use Malachi to break her. Marjani's smirk deepened. And once Thor's gates are open, we will finish what we started. Azrael lifted his hand, summoning a messenger. Bring sorcerer Malachi to us. Deep within the prison cells of Vealora, Malachi sat in chains. His once powerful aura dimmed but not extinguished. He sensed the shift in energy, the storm was coming. And at the center of it was his daughter. The dungeons of Vealora reeked of damp stone and lingering magic. Torches flickered along the curved walls, casting restless shadows that seemed to whisper secrets of the tortured souls who had passed through. The air was thick, heavy with the scent of iron and decay. At the center of the dimly lit chamber, sorcerer Malachi sat shackled, his wrists bound by enchanted cuffs that pulsed with an eerie blue glow. The cuffs siphoned his power, rendering him little more than a man, a caged beast without fangs. His mighty aura dulled to a mere flicker of what it once was. His once imposing robes were tattered, and dark streaks of dried blood marred his sleeves. Heavy footsteps echoed through the stone corridor beyond. The iron doors groaned open, their rusted hinges shrieking in protest, and two figures stepped inside. Queen Marjani, regal and wicked in equal measure, moved with the grace of a panther. Her emerald green gown trailed behind her, adorned with gold embroidery that shimmered under the dim light. Beside her, King Azrael, cold and composed, his violet eyes gleaming with quiet malice, walked with the air of a ruler who had never known defeat. Malachi slowly lifted his head, his piercing silver gaze meeting Marjani's smirk. Even bound, even weakened, there was defiance in his eyes. You look tired, Malachi, she mused, circling him like a predator toying with its prey. The great sorcerer of the deep, reduced to chains. Malachi remained silent, his jaw clenched, refusing to give her the satisfaction of a response. But his silence only amused her further. Azrael took a step forward, arms clasped behind his back. His voice, smooth yet sharp as a blade, filled the chamber. You will do something for us, Malachi. A slow exhale left Malachi's lips, and then a bitter smirk tugged at his mouth. And if I refuse? Marjani leaned in, her voice a whisper, soft yet filled with venom. Then we will send spies to Thor, and your precious daughter will not live to see the next moonrise. Malachi's fingers twitched. His breath hitched for a fraction of a second. A second too long. Marjani caught it, and her smirk deepened. Pain flickered in Malachi's silver eyes, but he masked it quickly, his expression turning to stone. "Cowards," he spat, his voice rough as gravel. Azrael chuckled, a low, humorless sound. "Perhaps, but effective." Marjani traced a delicate finger along the cold stone wall, as though discussing something mundane. "You are going to create a potion, Malachi. A poison so strong it can bring down even Thor's mighty dragons." Malachi's breath stilled. His heart pounded in his chest. A potion capable of killing dragons. That kind of magic was forbidden. It was an atrocity, an act that would tip the balance of power into chaos. The destruction it would cause. "I will never do it," he growled, his voice like a storm held at bay. Marjani sighed, feigning disappointment. "I hoped you would see reason." She turned to Azrael, nodding. Azrael motioned toward the darkened doorway. A shadow stepped forward, a figure cloaked in darkness, his presence as silent as death itself. His face was obscured beneath a hood, but the gleam of a blade in his grip was unmistakable. "This is Kian," Azrael said, his tone disturbingly casual. "He is already on his way to Thor. By sunrise, he will be whispering in your daughter's ear." A deep, unsteady breath rattled in Malachi's chest. Marjani smiled, her voice dripping with cruel amusement. "He will tell her of your suffering. And then, if you still refuse us, he will send her to the grave before she can even beg for your life." Malachi's entire body tensed, his nails digging into the stone beneath him. He had fought wars, outlived kings, and defied fate itself. But nothing, struck fear into his heart like the thought of Zarena dying because of him. For the first time in his life, Malachi felt truly powerless. His fists clenched, his knuckles turning white. The air around him crackled, a desperate surge of magic fighting against the cursed bindings. But it was useless. The cuffs held firm, suppressing his power like a vice. His heart waged war with his mind. He must not unleash such devastation upon the world. But Zarena. His breathing grew ragged. The silence stretched, thick with agony. Finally he bowed his head. His voice, once thunderous, now barely above a whisper. "I'll do it." Marjani's grin widened, victorious. Azrael patted Malachi's shoulder mockingly. "Good choice." Marjani's laughter rang through the dungeon, a sound that echoed long after the iron doors slammed shut behind them.
Thanks for tuning in. Be sure to stay connected by leaving your thoughts in the comments, giving the video a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel. Hit the notification bell so you're the first to know when a new content drops. We appreciate your support and look forward to seeing you in the next video.